Have you ever met someone who's just a social wizard? They can walk into a tense meeting and somehow smooth everything over. They know exactly what to say when a friend is upset. They just get people. It almost feels like a superpower, right? Well, it's not magic. It's a skill. And it's something we're going to unpack right now. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the basics. What even is emotional intelligence, or EQ? Then we'll break down its 5 key parts. After that, we'll get practical and learn how to spot it in others. Then things get interesting. We'll look at the surprising dark side of EQ. And finally, we'll talk about how you can actually build up your own. All right, so let's dive in. What is this secret superpower we're talking about? It's emotional intelligence. You've probably heard the term thrown around, but in a world that's getting louder and more complicated, it's more crucial than ever. I mean, listen to this quote from the guy who literally wrote the book on it, Daniel Goleman. He called it the sine qua non of leadership. That's a fancy way of saying it's the one thing you absolutely cannot do without. It's not just a nice-to-have soft skill. It's fundamental. You can be the smartest person in the room, but without this, you're going to struggle. So what does it all boil down to? Well, think of it this way. EQ works on 2 different channels. The first is internal. It's about looking in the mirror. Do you understand your own moods? Can you keep your impulses in check? And the second channel is external. It's about looking out the window. Can you read what other people are feeling and use that understanding to connect with them? Now check this out, because this is where it gets really mind-blowing. Goleman looked at hundreds of companies, and what he found was wild. Sure, you need a good IQ and technical skills to get your foot in the door, but when he looked at the top-tier leaders, the star performers, almost 90% of what separated them from the average folks came down to emotional intelligence. 90%! So how does this actually work? Well, EQ isn't just one big, vague thing. Goleman actually breaks it down for us into 5 separate skills that all fit together. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with self-awareness. You got to know what you're feeling and why. Once you have that, you can move to self-regulation, which is basically not letting your emotions hijack your brain. From there, you get motivation, that inner drive that's about more than a paycheck. Then the focus shifts outward. You have empathy, the ability to tune into how others feel. And all of that comes together in the final piece, social skill, which is using all this insight to build real connections. See how they stack on top of each other? Okay, so we've got the theory down, but what does a person with high EQ actually look like when you're just talking to them? It's not like they wear a sign. The clues are actually pretty subtle. The very first thing you'll probably notice is how they listen. There's this little pause before they answer you. Now, that's not them trying to think of what to say. It's intentional. They're actually processing what you just said instead of just reloading for their turn to speak. And this story just nails it, right? In a super stressful situation, when everyone's just reacting and getting defensive, the person with high EQ creates a little bit of space. They pause, they breathe. That tiny little gap between feeling something and doing something, that's where emotional intelligence happens. People with high EQ also talk differently. They fight that urge we all have to just jump in and fix things. Instead, they start by validating the other person's feelings. They'll say something like, "Wow, that sounds incredibly frustrating." It's a small thing, but it shows they heard the emotion behind your words. They also own their feelings, using I statements, like saying, "I felt confused by that," instead of "you were being confusing." It's a game changer. And here's a really cool concept. They have what researchers call emotional granularity. It means they have a high-definition vocabulary for their feelings. They don't just feel bad. They can pinpoint if they're feeling disappointed, or maybe resentful or anxious. And that's not just for show. When you can name an emotion precisely, you have way more power to deal with it. Okay, so up until now, EQ sounds like this amazing, purely positive thing. But like any powerful tool, it really depends on who's using it. It can be a double-edged sword, used for good or for, well, not so good. So we have to ask the question, right? Can you have too much of a good thing? Well, according to some researchers, the answer is a big, resounding yes. Just look at this breakdown. The same empathy that helps you connect with someone can be used to figure out their insecurities and manipulate them. That self-regulation that makes you seem calm and trustworthy, it can also be used
to hide what you're really thinking. And get this, sometimes leaders with too much empathy can struggle to make tough decisions because they're so worried about hurting people's feelings. And this is a perfect, kind of scary example of that dark side. Researchers found that when a message is packed with emotion, we sort of turn off our critical thinking. Our brains focus on the feeling, not the facts. A master emotional manipulator knows this and can use it to get people to do things that aren't in their best interest. So after hearing all that, it's easy to feel a little cynical. But here's the thing, understanding the risks is exactly why it's so important to work on our own EQ. It helps us use this power for good, and it helps us spot when someone else might be using it on us. And this, honestly, is the best news of all. This isn't some magical talent you're either born with or you're not. These are skills. They are learnable. You can get better at this with practice. Just becoming aware of how this stuff works is the huge first step on that journey.
So, where do you start? It's simpler than you might think. Here's a 3-step path. First, just start to observe your own triggers. What situations or people push your buttons? No judgment, just notice. Second, practice that pause we talked about. Before you speak or type, just take one deep breath. It's amazing what that little space can do. And third, try to name your feelings with more detail. Are you just mad, or are you actually feeling disrespected? Labeling it helps you manage it.
You know, at the end of the day, emotional intelligence is about one big shift in perspective. It's about seeing your emotions not as a problem to be solved, but as information. They're data, they're signals trying to tell you what's important. The only question left is, are you listening?